Hi, it's me again with CorelDraw tips and tricks, just playing around with a pattern. I've made this shape many times, but I was trying to decorate it up a little bit. I'm going to see if I can't do a little bit better job of it on this one. The way to draw something like that is to take an ellipse. Doesn't really matter what size you start, as long as you're even. So let's make it 6 inches. Now, if you will set your nudge factor to 6 inches with nothing selected, let's zoom in here a little bit. And let's Control D and make a duplicate. That put another one because I nudged it exactly 6 inches. Now let's cut that in half and nudge it 3 inches. And I'm going to take this one and make a duplicate and nudge it up and over. There I have that shape, and it's perfect. It needs to be perfect so it can fit inside of itself many times. If you don't do it correctly, you're not going to get that result. I'm going to hit P and put it in the center of the page. I'm going to left click, right click. You could almost do anything. You don't have to do the pattern I did. I'm going to take a 2-point line and kind of cut it in half and hit P. And then I'm going to take a 3-point curve line, and I'm going to mimic that curve from that right there to right there and try to get pretty close to dead on. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it close. And once you've set it, don't think it's in stone, because you can always get your shape tool and tweak it just a little bit more than, and like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to do some things with it. Now I want to basically stretch out that curve, but I should have made a duplicate first. Control D and make a duplicate, and then stretch out the next one. Now I am going to take, well, I didn't really need that duplicate. I'm going to take that and Control D and make a duplicate. The reason I stretched it out so I could rotate it, and I'm going to put it like right there, Control D, Control D. See, I didn't quite stretch it out enough. And really you're limited to your half of the line. We might be able to take it. Nope, you're not going to be able to do it manually. And really, you know what? Let's start over. Let me back up here. And let's take our original line. I'm just going to get rid of that line. Take our original line and stretch it. This time I'm not going to make a copy of it, but I didn't really stretch it enough. I'm trying to keep it out of the center. There we go. Now I'm going to Control D and make a duplicate. And like I said, you don't have to use this pattern. The main objective was just to use, there we go. Let's leave it like that. And you could do more with this. We might even try something else. Let's take our virtual segment delete key and delete this line that's on the other side of the half. So now what we can do is we can take away our line, and let's try this. Let's try to grab all of our red lines and move it out of the way. Let's take our original shape and go up to effects and contour. Let's contour to the inside just one time. That's pretty good. That's what we really wanted. Now, let's go ahead and break the contour apart, and let's put these back. We're putting them right back where they were, because now what I can do is I can actually cut off these lines, because I want them to not be to the whole section. You know what? We might even cut off the other lines. I've never done this before. I'm playing. I'm going to call that good. Now we can get rid of this line. See, we've got some weird lines. Control D to make a duplicate while holding down the control button. Well, we got that line right there. We don't want that line. Let's go break the curve apart. Let's get rid of that line. I I think there's still a red line there. You know, there might be part of a line down there. I can see red, yes. So what we have to do is grab them all, go up to Effect, and, well, evidently they're not. Maybe I just click on that line and go up to Object and break the curve apart. That way I can get rid of that line. That line's connected to that line, so I can break curve apart. I don't want that line. Okay, there we go. Now, Control G to group them, Control D to duplicate them, and then mirror it, holding down the control button, and see how they're perfect. Now I'm going to take all those lines and make them thicker. Nah, too thick. That'll look pretty good. Now I'm going to go to Object. Well, I need to select them all. Go to Object. Okay, I'm going to have to ungroup them. Object, group and ungroup. Grab just the red lines. Go up to Object. Convert the outline to an object. Then I can left click, right click, and what I get is an invisible line, basically. And what I could do now is take all this and weld it and get rid of that part right there. Because what I'm going to do now is just the opposite of what you would think. I'm going to use the Smart Fill tool and look at the shape I've created. Not that big a deal, but here's the rest of the video. This thing, we know we're 6 inches, right? Our nudge factor is set back to 6, and make Control D and make as many of these as you want. Go off the page. Now, same thing, I'm going to Control G to group it. I'm going to change my nudge factor to 3, which is half of that. Because now when I Control G to duplicate it, see how I put it right in the spot? Now I can go both these, Control D, go straight down. I need to get rid of all these. Let me back up, get rid of that first hit. And now we can actually grab the whole thing. And by this, you're not going at a distance, and you can't go too far because you can just back up. Now, to make it look like a square, you need to group this together. Go to Object. You've got to group it together for this to work. Group and group. And then let's make a rectangle. And by putting well, you know what we can also do? We need to put an outline. There's no outline on this. That'll make it stand out. I don't like the center outline. I'm going to back up a lot. I forgot to put the outline in. Tell you what we can do. Instead of backing up, I can go to group and ungroup and just take one of these. Okay? Now, I don't want an outline on the other one. I only want an outline on the outside. So the easiest way to do that would be to take a rectangle, take the Smart Fill tool. I change colors just so you can see it. And then I'm going to move that over. And then I'm going to fill that in. I don't know what I keep hitting. Sorry about that. I had the Smart Fill tool. But what we can do now is go left click, right click, and make that maybe a thicker line, and then put it over there. That way, my object is outlined, but not my inner parts. So I'm going to Control G to group. My arm is hitting something. Now, we got our nudge factor set on 3. We'll say to change it to 6. Control D to duplicate it many times as you want. Group this together, Control G. Let's change our nudge factor to 3. Control D to duplicate it and move it down and over. Now the best thing to do now is just Control D and just move it down. And then Control D, Control D, Control D. You could have as many of those as you wanted. Now group this together. You'll see the end result here in just a second. And we'll get a rectangle and just put it in here. The rectangle has to be on top for the intersect tool to work. We're going to intersect it. And now we have that pattern. But what we can also do is take our rectangle, fill our rectangle in with, let's fill it in with blue. Let's go ahead and go to Object, Order, Backup Page. And when we move this over to our graphic, see how it's filling in my lines that aren't really there? Pretty good seamless pattern. I could have maybe made the outline of the black a little bit thicker, and I could have changed. That would have been a good result to make the outline blue or whatever. So let's make our backing black. And then that way we have all our lines are the same, but our lines don't have a background or a line around them to make them thicker. That's a pretty cool pattern. Anyway, I hope that helped just a little bit. Thank you for watching.